Boy, the Miami Dolphins supporters, what we not gonna do this season is go 1-6 and try to win the rest of the fucking games. If we gonna tank, we gonna tank all the way the fuck out so we could get us the motherfucking top pick. Let's get Shedeur Sanders. Let's get Shedeur Sanders. Cause Tyreek Hill, greatest motherfucking receiver in the league, and he had 20 yards yesterday. You know,
And Tua has yet to be that for the Miami Dolphins, despite them giving him a contract paying him north of $50 million a year. This is a guy that leads the NFL in multi-interception games since 2022.
Breaking news from the Miami Dolphins. The team is reportedly on the hunt for a new quarterback before the trade deadline after Tua Tagovailoa's recent struggles have left fans frustrated. And here's the kicker. Among the names on the short list is none other than Shedeur Sanders. The news has sent shockwaves through the fan base, sparking an outpouring of support for Sanders to step in as the new leader of the offense. Fans are calling for the franchise to make a bold move, pairing Sanders with Tyreek Hill to electrify the field and give the fans the excitement they've been craving. Will the Dolphins make the move? Let's dive into the details.
Dolphin fans are ready for a change under center after a dreadful start. They want Shedeur Sanders traded to the Dolphins.
Shannon Sharpe recently revealed that the Miami Dolphins are seriously considering a change at quarterback, as Tua Tagovailoa's play has not lived up to expectations. The team is starting to lose faith in him as their long-term solution, and with the season still ongoing, they recognize the need for a quarterback capable of taking them deeper into the playoffs. Shedeur Sanders has become the leading contender for the job. However, the Dolphins can't afford to get caught up in a bidding war. They'll have to handle this situation carefully and with a well-thought-out strategy. Analysts suggest this trade could be in the works, particularly since Stefanski has shown no interest in adding Shedeur Sanders to his team, even openly criticizing him in interviews. Skip Bayless pointed out that Stefanski might not be as high on Sanders as many assume, and there could be a specific reason behind his reluctance. Bayless argues that Stefanski is fully aware of the media circus that would follow if Sanders were to take the field. Once Sanders steps into the spotlight, every move he makes would be scrutinized by the media, drawing attention away from the team. For Stefanski, this is a situation he'd prefer to avoid, as it would create unnecessary pressure on both Sanders and the entire franchise.
Quarterback, and now I think he's the second, but I can't even trust that with Kevin Stefanski, who is obviously no fan of Shedeur's. Kevin is doing everything in his power to keep Shedeur out of the spotlight and off radar, because he knows once Shedeur gets his foot in that door, look out, because there's going to be an avalanche of national publicity and national runaway expectation.
This potential trade is looking more likely as Cam Newton recently revealed that the relationship between Tua Tagovailoa and head coach Mike McDaniels may not be as harmonious as it appears. McDaniels has allegedly made subtle comments indicating that Tua isn't meeting expectations, even telling him to stick to his assigned role. Cam Newton backed up McDaniels, agreeing that Tua has yet to prove himself to the Dolphins. With multiple games plagued by costly interceptions, the situation doesn't seem to be improving. Right now, Tua has no real competition for his starting job. But if the Dolphins bring in Shedeur Sanders, Tua's position could be at serious risk.
Say certain things, you have to do your job and do your job well from Mike McDaniels. Well, is that an innuendo that he was talking about Tua? Because Tua has had multiple interception games, multiple times that he hasn't been doing what we paid him to do.
Cam's observation hits the mark, especially after witnessing McDaniels' visible frustration with Tua. The head coach made it clear that his primary concern is making sure his players perform at their best, as that's their duty. However, that hasn't been happening lately. McDaniels' remarks appeared to be a subtle jab at Tua, highlighting his disappointment with the quarterback's recent performances. Here's what McDaniels had to say.
As long as I coach for the Miami Dolphins in this organization, they'll get everything from me. You have a job, you do your job, and you do it to the best of your ability. And that's where my concern lies. I think it's offensive to all coaches, players, and the organization if I'm spending that precious time thinking about myself.
The debate is heating up in Cleveland, with some insiders suggesting that if Shedeur Sanders becomes available for trade, the Browns might be willing to part ways with him. His market value is at an all-time high, and several teams, including the Dolphins, are showing strong interest. Journalists are beginning to question whether it's worth holding on to a player who hasn't met the lofty expectations placed on him. Fans are pushing for a fresh start, believing that a change of environment could help Sanders unlock his full potential. With the pressure mounting, the Browns face a tough decision, and Miami could be a potential landing spot for Sanders.
You trade Shedeur Sanders. You clearly are not sold on him right now. You're not sold on the progress that he's making, even though you're saying, hey, we're happy with where he's at.
I'm going to be livid if it goes down, by the way.
There's some validity to these claims, as reports indicate that Stefanski has no intention of giving Shedeur Sanders any playing time. During the last game, a particular moment caught the eye of many. When Dillon stepped in as quarterback, Stefanski was seen smiling and laughing, almost as if he were sending a subtle message. It looked like he was fully invested in Dillon's success, but that smile seemed to come at the expense of Shedeur Sanders, who had been patiently waiting for his chance to play.
That face right there tells you everything you need to know about Shedeur possibly getting in ever. Oh my God. Look how fucking happy he is. Look at this nigga, bro. I don't know if his number's gonna be called. There's no evidence.
The pressure on the Dolphins is escalating, as analysts and former players alike challenge the decision to keep Tua as the starting quarterback. Cam Newton has been vocal, openly questioning the team's commitment to Tua and suggesting a trade for Shedeur Sanders. With growing criticism from fans and experts, it seems the Dolphins are under increasing scrutiny. The calls for change are getting louder, and the idea of bringing in Sanders is gaining traction. As the trade deadline approaches, the possibility of Sanders joining the Dolphins is becoming a more realistic and widely discussed scenario.
I don't blame Mike McDaniels more so than I blame Tua Tagovailoa, because Tua Tagovailoa has been on one dating back to the offseason, and now we find ourselves in this type of situation. The play of Tua has not been what it's supposed to be in your labeled franchise player.
The Miami Dolphins are in a dire situation, and significant change seems inevitable. After several underwhelming performances from Tua Tagovailoa, it's becoming clear that the team may need to move on from him to stay competitive. With Tua's struggles, a shift in strategy is no longer a luxury but a necessity, and the most logical change will likely come at the quarterback position. The constant pressure from analysts, fans, and former players such as Cam Newton is forcing the Dolphins to take a hard look at their future, and it's becoming evident that a change is coming sooner rather than later. Among all the potential solutions, Shedeur Sanders has emerged as the most popular and favored option. The young quarterback's potential, paired with his high market value, has caught the eye of the Dolphins front office, and he seems like the perfect candidate to lead the team into the future. His addition would not only inject new life into the offense, but also provide the Dolphins with a dynamic and confident leader under center. Sanders brings a fresh perspective, and his presence could give the team the spark it needs to make a deep playoff run. Making the move for Sanders could also be a career-defining decision for head coach Mike McDaniels. If McDaniels can successfully implement Sanders into the team and lead the Dolphins to success, it would solidify his place as the team's long-term coach. The Dolphins' season, and possibly McDaniels' job, are riding on this critical decision. A successful transition to Shedeur Sanders could be a game-changer, rescuing both the Dolphins' playoff hopes and the coach's tenure. The clock is ticking, and it's clear that change is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. So, what do you think, Dolphins fans? Is it time for a change at quarterback? Do you believe Tua still has what it takes? Or has the team outgrown him? Is Shedeur Sanders the right move to turn this season around and make a real playoff push? Could this be the game-changing decision that saves Coach McDaniels' job and re-energizes the franchise? With the pressure mounting, what's your take on the situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with the trade rumors, or do you think the Dolphins should stick with Tua for the rest of the season?